Hudson County View Live at Uncut. I'm your host, John R. Heides, with the R stands for Rated R Superstar. Today, we're going to talk, of course, the latest and greatest at Hudson County news. So first of all, there's a whole lot going on in Bayonne. We've been talking about the Peninsula City a lot this year, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon, as we're less than a calendar year away from the municipal elections there. So what's going on here today is, or this week I should say, is we heard a recorded conversation, appears to be secretly recorded, where the law director is talking about the business administrator, and he has some choice words for her. So we're going to clue you in on what happened there if you missed it. We're also going to talk a little bit of crime, actually. There was an unfortunate incident in North Hudson last month, towards the end of last month, specifically at James J. Braddock Park. A West New York man was severely beaten and had to be put on life support. And this was all being treated as a hate crime, and there's been a number of charges issued due to the fact that the man received this beating unprovoked, simply due to the fact that he was perceived as being gay. So we're going to talk about what was released from the New Jersey Attorney General's office. We're also going to be talking about what happened in Hoboken and Hudson County in these reorganization meetings. We have a new municipal chair for the Republicans in both Hoboken and again in Hudson County. We're going to stay the same. It's no surprise to anyone that Jose Arango won another term. We're going to talk about that. Also about the Jersey City Democratic Organization, where Barbara Stamana will remain as chair for her third term. And today I'm also joined with a publisher again. After having Bruce Alston last week, today I'm joined with HUD Post publisher James De Los Santos. So all that and a whole lot more after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Cutting edge surgical care is right here in Secaucus.
Robotic surgery is safer.
Shorter hospital stays.
Smaller abdominal incisions, the size of an M&M. Here at Hudson Regional, we provide world-class robotic surgical care.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View Live at Uncut, John R. Heides, and as I just mentioned a few moments ago, today I'm joined with HUD Post publisher James De Los Santos. James, thanks for coming in,
hey, thanks
especially at short notice. Very generous of you.
Of course, I appreciate it. I appreciate what you do here, and I've always looked up to you as far as journalism in Hudson County, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. That's a nice compliment. Very good way to start, I think. So tell us just a little bit about your publication. For those that aren't familiar, how long you've been in operations, what do you like to do in terms of coverage, and just give us a brief overview for those who may not be familiar.
Sure. Because I started HUD Post as a blog just to cover North Bergen as like a hyper-focused news on my neighborhood and just my community in general. And just looking at, the things that you used to do back in the day when you started with Hudson County TV, you started your own spinoff with Hudson County View and being successful. So I kind of brought those kind of skills that I've learned from you guys, actually doing it in the community and brought it to North Bergen. And right now my focus has been North Hudson, where I feel like is the most media desert we have in New Jersey. So I like to cover a lot of things where I help out local artists, local musicians, local businesses. Like we just had a pizza playoffs where we gave a trophy to the best pizzeria in North Bergen. And this type of content I think helps people feel part of the community. It actually helps small businesses, artists, local people that need that kind of push to help them get into the spotlight.
All right, very good, James. So, yeah, people know the kind of stuff you do in the community. I know you've also taken up the social justice causes recently, especially as it relates to George Floyd. I know you helped organize, were a pivotal part of organizing 2 marches. Why did you think it was important to do that, not only last year, but this year again? Why was that a focal point for you?
Well, I think last year it was a national movement where I thought it was just important that every neighborhood and every community stands up and says, that they're against police brutality and that we're, we stand in justice with Black Lives Matter. So I just felt like we were just a small part of this bigger picture of what's going on in the nation. I felt like we should redo it and continue doing it every year because it was supposed to be a movement, not a moment. So taking that kind of ideology and motto, I said, hey, let's continue this movement. Let's build upon it. Let's have people in our community that are affected, whether it was the Palestinian community, whether it was the Hispanic community with the ICE program, Black Lives Matter. So all these different things, I felt like if we bring them together, we could start this community thing where we know that we're looking out for each other.
Now, when we're talking North Hudson, whether it's Union City, North Bergen, West New York, et cetera, their police departments, I mean, would you agree they typically, are pretty even-handed departments, not really known for their use of force? Would that be a fair assessment in your book?
I would say that they're, as far as police brutality, I would say, yeah, they're as far as even. You don't see any department sticking out as far as like that's the bad department. But I would disagree as far as they're all different in their type of ways. I'm sure the people driving around Gothenburg, they might get a couple tickets a lot more frequently than other cities. So, but besides that, I think that the police departments here are actually good. So.
All right, great. So now another thing, I mean, you talked about your community efforts. Obviously, we just talked about the social justice end. The thing that seems to get you in the most trouble is when you do the politics, right?
Of course.
I mean, we've heard, so many different rumors about, you're with Harvey Weinstein, you're with Nick Sacco, you hate the administration, you love the administration, etc. So, I mean, you do a lot of posts on Instagram and you don't really utilize the website as much as someone like myself does. So, first of all, why is that your approach? Why are you pretty heavy on Instagram and not so heavy on the other platforms?
Well, when I built the platform, I was kind of trying to reach people where they were. So when I first started, Facebook was the premier social media to use. And as I started building and using TikTok and Twitter and all these different platforms, Instagram it has to be the number one right now. I think just in general, Instagram is the number one social media out there. So I'm kind of meeting people where they are instead of trying to drag them to me. So the website's there as a way to get the information if you're not a person who uses social media. But the Instagram definitely is the number one driver, and it helps me communicate more with my actual followers. I could hold polls. I could have back and forth Instagram lives where people could join instantly. So there's a lot of different tools that Instagram has that I think is working out for me.
All right, great. And a great following for sure. Kudos to that, over 10,000. So, yeah, that's not too shabby. With that said, to my initial point, I kind of sidetracked myself, but we're talking about the politics.
Yes.
You certainly get some heat anytime you're talking about what's going on at the schools, who's the next mayor going to be, who's going to run next time. So just tell me, I mean, when you're looking at things for an election standpoint, a political standpoint, what's going through your head, just generally speaking?
Generally speaking, I feel like, everyone's trying to put me in a bucket where you're a Larry person, you're a Nick Sacco person, and no one ever just says, hey, he's a James person. I care about my community. I grew up here, I went to school here, I went to high school here, so the people here and my neighbors here, I care about. So that's the perspective I look at. What does the average day person look like? Because when you start following politics and you're deep into it, it's really easy to miss the fact that a lot of people don't even pay attention to this. So when you talk about freeholders and commissioners, a lot of people don't even know what these positions are. So I tend to try to break it down for layman terms for my community, and I also look at it as hey, I'm a non-political person. This is what, if I was just a person in the streets looking at politics here, that's kind of the content I put out there.
Very good. We're not done yet, but we are going to take one more commercial break, so we'll be right back.
Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to be prepared for your emergency.
We promise to provide world-class robotic surgical care.
We promise to treat you like family.
To provide accurate diagnostic care.
To provide the most innovative orthopedic care at your doorsteps.
We promise to treat your baby like our own.
To never stop investing in the best of spinal care.
To be with you every step of the way.
Here at Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to take care of our community.
A brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, Your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut. John Arhitis, still here with HUD Post publisher James De Los Santos. So just to wrap up our previous topic here about the politics of North Bergen. So what would you say to the people that say, hey, you know, you're really anti-Sacco, you're pro-Larry? What would you say to those folks? Just in summation of what we were just talking about.
I would tell them if they look at the content in its entirety, if you're looking from beginning to end, you'll know that I've always shown all sides of the story. So when it is something a pro-Sacco story, which probably would be like the high school that I was for. I thought that we should get another high school. Our high schools are overpacked. So when you look at my content, you'll see that it's strictly my opinions on how I feel about things. So if you think I'm pro-Sacco, it's probably because I agree with the decisions he's making at the moment. But I'm not much for, you know, praising a politician or a figurehead. It's about the actions that they do. So if Larry does something that I appreciate, I'll share the story. So when it's independent people running, I appreciate when independent people run for politics and push the people in charge to do something that's outside of their comfort zone. So those are the things that I cover. So if you see that, it's more so that's how I feel. I want to show all sides of the story and not just be siloed into one or the other.
Gotcha. So on another topic, but related, of course, you certainly have North Hudson first response incidents locked out. I mean, I can't go a day without seeing a car fire in Union City or, you know, an overturned car in North Bergen, so on and so forth. Obviously, you know what you post. So obviously, I don't expect you to share any sources or anything like that. But how do you stay on top of that beat so well?
Well, going back to what we're talking about, why do I use Instagram so much? That has been the driver of getting information. I feel that every time I receive a video or content about what's going on, whether a fire, a car flipping, car accident, I always tag the person that gave it to me. And I think they feel that I respect the fact that they gave it to me. So people are more willing to share stories with me. And as I continue doing that, just today I have about 10 DMs about other incidents gone on, whether it's a small car accident that I won't share, but also like a fire. Like there were so many people on the streets just willing to give me information. So I feel like I have 64,000 reporters in North Bergen, just every citizen's waiting to help me out. And I think it's an exchange. I make sure that I cover things that are important to their lives, and vice versa, they help me out.
All right, yeah, it makes sense. So now looking ahead for, you know, let's say the next year or so, you know, there's not a whole lot in electoral politics happening in North Hudson, you know. Looks like the big showdown is going to be in Bayonne. Looks like, you know, of course in November we have Jersey City, Hoboken, not what a lot of people expected it to be, but nonetheless, those seem to be the three premier races coming up. So, you know, outside of the police beat, you know, what do you have upcoming, let's say between now and next June? Anything in particular that you have on your docket?
Yeah, definitely. We're looking at rolling out a podcast for people, you know, now that we're going back to work and people are going to have that travel, getting on a train. Think about doing maybe an hour-long podcast, just, you know, having people like you on, having people who are artists, musicians, just staying in the same realm of just helping out the local community. So we're thinking maybe a podcast would be a good way to diversify our content.
Okay, and in the long term, I mean, is HUD Post something you see doing for the next, you know, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, do you have an interest? I know you obviously have something else in your career job, you know, your day job. So, you know, do you have any interest in like pursuing something further? You know, maybe working for like NBC or something? Do you have any interest in elected politics? What do you think the future holds?
Well, as far as HUD Post, I didn't think I'd be here. If you're telling me if in 5 years when I started, I'd be here talking to you about my platform and about how much impact it has, it wouldn't have crossed my mind. So I keep an open mind to what the next 5 years could look like as far as HUD Post and as far as my personal, you know, my personal endeavors. So I definitely still want to continue being a community advocate for people in North Bergen. I know that's North Hudson is very silent as far as when it comes to the anti-establishment or community activism. It's usually Jersey City, Hoboken, the new type of in-crowd people are moving in. So I want to keep that activism up here and teach people and advocate for them and let them know, hey, this is how you can change stuff in your community. So I think that's what my next 5 years will be focused on, is just continuing building this community activism and organizing and just, you know, having fun with HUD Post, because it definitely is fun. Because I couldn't have done it for 5 years if it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's take that a step further. So, I mean, I think most people in North Hudson would agree that if you don't have some connection to Congressman Series, Senator Sacco, or Senator Stack, you're not going too far, at least politically, and even, probably goes further beyond that. So, I mean, what would you say to people that hesitate to get involved for that particular specific reason?
I would say it's a real reason to be hesitant to joining politics. But I think the first thing you're supposed to do, and politics isn't a sport you just join. It's like boxing. You don't just get in a ring, and you're a fighter, you don't just get in and start fighting. It's something you have to work towards and build towards. So anyone who wants to jump into politics and really wants to make a change here needs to start from the ground. You need to start knocking on doors and meeting people, because activism is just making connections with people in the neighborhood and people who are doing things around the world. So I think that's what I would tell people. If you want to jump into politics, start off with the community activism and organizing and build your way there, because if you rely on people like congressmen and the senators, they already have their positions locked down. Their career is set and goal. They already know what they're doing. So if you want to change your own way in your own community, you got to take that into your own hands.
Very good. And just, we'll end on this. What's one topic, or really I think one story that you'd like to hone in on in the immediate future, let's not put a timestamp on it, regarding North Hudson that you haven't had a chance to really sink your teeth into yet?
Something that came out on NJ.com, whereas right now we're having this rollout of recreational cannabis and how each town is going to handle it. And I think that's something I'm really going to focus in on, because I believe that recreational cannabis being legalized now, that's going to be able to create wealth. And it depends on each city how they roll out these things is going to determine who's going to get this wealth. So are we going to roll out these applications that allow black and brown people who've been hurt by these by these laws of cannabis throughout the years, or are we just going to give it to someone who gives the best donation? So I think that's going to be my main focus, is to see how we're going to roll this out and who are the people that are benefiting from this the most. Because when we talk about weed and marijuana in Hudson County, there's no doubt people can buy it anywhere they want right now. And so that's not the case. It's not about being able to buy it. It's who's selling it and who's creating the wealth and who's going to be able to feed families off of that.
James, thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you, especially on short notice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We're not done yet. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View Live and Uncut, John R. Highness. So let's talk a little bit about these reorg meetings. Of course, I really rarely, if ever, miss an election over here. So we want to tell you about what happened following that primary last month. So, you know, in light of those elections, we have some shakeups, and I think the most entertaining one by quite a few miles, if I say so myself, is the Hoboken GOP Municipal Committee. So the outgoing chair was Chris Carbide, and he ran for his committee seat. He was unsuccessful in defending that seat. So as a result, they were voting on a new chair. Of course, that's not unusual. This happens all the time, especially at the nitty-gritty municipal level. But the thing that was interesting here was we had a meeting with about 40 members, voting members showing up, both old and new, and nobody had a copy of the bylaws. I can't say I've ever seen that one before. And it looked like Joshua Sotomayor Einstein, who is a former GOP state committee man, was going to challenge Joe Branco, who is actually a former secretary for the Hoboken Democratic Committee. Joe just switched his party affiliation a couple months ago, right before the filing deadline, which was in April. And ever since then, it looked like they were going to have a really close race, which they did. You know, Joe Branco won 15 votes to 12 but against Joshua Sotomayor Einstein. Now, we thought that was the last we'd ever seen and heard of that matchup. However, the reality was we were just getting started because they were going to challenge one another for the chair. And that isn't exactly the way it went down, though. So long story short, it took about an hour of infighting. You know, again, nobody had a copy of the bylaws. There was a call for adjournment because there were no bylaws. That was not heard. Since Carbide was not present, there was a chair pro tempore, and that was Kim Glatt, who was a former municipal judge who actually also ran for mayor back in 2009. So there was a lot going on, and this actually ended up getting drawn out for almost, actually a little over an hour. And they took 2 votes on this, which included a couple Zoom calls, and also, you know, that we saw attempts at a proxy vote, and it was just really a whole lot going on, I guess, to put it very mildly. But when it was all said and done, we saw Branco victorious, 24 votes in the affirmative. You know, I had some varying tallies on how many no's and abstentions. I think it was about 10 no's and 3 abstentions, give or take a couple votes. You know, it's tough to actually get the tallies from these committees since they're closed meetings. But with that said, Branco told me the next day, my primary reason for getting involved stems from a desire to bring unity and collaboration to the party. I am thrilled that on June 28th, despite a challenging start to our meeting, the elected committee members came together to select an outstanding board. All right, so that's a pretty positive perspective, despite things going the way they did. And, you know, Einstein had a less than positive perspective. He said, the hijacking of the Hoboken GOP committee meeting by operatives of Hudson GOP Chair Jose Arango and his protege Joe Branco, infamous for supporting Democrats, was a disservice to all Republicans. He goes on to say that this won't be the end of it. You know, in my book, it looks like they're angling towards a court challenge. Related with the Hudson County GOP, we saw Sotomayor Einstein. This time, he did get a nomination, and he was able to challenge Jose Arango despite not being a member of the Hoboken or the county committee, but didn't really matter much. Arango won 119-2, you know, not exactly a barn burner. You know, he was very precise in his execution. He did this at 6 o'clock on the dot at the Boulevard in North Bergen, and he made sure that there were no stragglers coming in. They did the vote immediately. The meeting only lasted 20, 25 minutes or so. But it looks like, and I can't say this with 100% certainty yet, but it looks like this is also going to be a part of this aforementioned lawsuit. So we're going to see if either or both of these committees get voted on again. And just very quickly, switching gears again already, the Jersey City Democratic Organization had 3 changes. So that is Anthony Mitchell took over as first vice chair, replacing Peter Basaka. He moved out of state. County Commissioner Urena Aponte-Lipsky, the previous sergeant at arms, is now the second vice chair. And Charles Mullins was voted in as the new sergeant at arms. Everything else pretty much remained the same. There was some contention about whether or not there should be amendments to the bylaws allowed at the meeting. The committee as a whole did not see that, despite calls from progressives, though the chair, Barbara Stamato, has vowed that they will take a look at that at their next meeting, which is going to be, looks like, tentatively set for September. So finally, on this point, on this segment, I guess I should really say, we're going to talk about the Bayonne Law Director, that's John J. Coffey, and we're going to talk about this secretly recorded conversation. So I mean, I think the first sentence kind of spells it out for you. F her. I've been here 30 years. I'm not going to kowtow to this jerk. I talked to my wife about this. I'm going out with my sword with this lady, not on my shield. So clearly a lot of bad blood. Couldn't say exactly where this recording came from, but I can say that New Jersey's a one-party consent state, and therefore that only one party needs to be aware of the recording as long as it's not made with criminal intent. So I think I'm just going to let this audio speak for itself, and then we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors.
Later on after she left, I go, hey, she goes, Jay, that was so uncomfortable. You stood there and didn't talk to her for like 5 minutes. I said, well, I was doing other stuff. I had to. She just stood there. Could you see her staring at you? I saw her staring at me when she didn't have the mask on. Then she stared at me while I had the mask on. When she put the mask on, she said, yeah, very uncomfortable. You know, I've been here 30 years. I'm not going to count that with this jerk. So, it's going to be an interesting ride with this. I've talked to my wife about this. I'm going out with my sword with this lady, not on my shield. She's like, what do you do? We have all of City Hall rowing the same way right now, except for one person. Oh, there's 4. There's her and Sharon and the Smiths. The Smiths, Ed and Ann Smith. Oh. They're sticking their words and working like that. So, you know, she was enthusiastic. What do you? I said, I love working with you and everybody. This department, I love.
Panepinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment. Adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panepintoproperties.com. Panepinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View live and uncut. John Arhitis. Unfortunately, we're going to end on a bit of a somber note going into the holiday weekend here. But I think it's really imperative, though, that you guys know the details regarding this just savage beatdown at North Hudson Park, of course, also known as James J. Braddock Park in North Bergen. So we heard from the New Jersey Attorney General's office yesterday that Jose Tobias Corazzo Serrano, also known as Kevin Lopez, 18, of Baltimore, Maryland, was arrested on June 23rd. He was charged by complaint with first-degree crimes of attempted homicide, bias intimidation, and robbery, as well as second-degree aggravated assault. Now, this was an investigation that had quite a few agencies involved. We had the Sheriff's Office, the Prosecutor's Office, the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, and of the North Bergen, Hoboken, and Bayonne police departments also played a role in solving, or at least leading to the charges related to these crimes. So he's also currently being held in Hudson County Jail pending a detention hearing. And according to the AG's office, in the early morning hours on Tuesday, June 22nd, he allegedly attacked a victim near the south end of the lake at Braddock Park. And apparently this was a stranger he had just met, and he made it clear that he wanted to kill the victim because he suspected the victim was gay, punching and kicking him in the face, causing multiple fractures and knocking out several teeth. Really just disturbing stuff. And Graywall, said the defendant is charged with attempting to kill a complete stranger because he thought the man was gay. The victim was beaten and choked so badly that he was unconscious for several hours before a passerby found him and called for help. Whether this type of hate-fueled violence is directed against the LGBTQ+ community or other groups, it is terribly destructive to society. We must push back against it in every way possible. That, of course, includes aggressively investigating and prosecuting those who commit such crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it that. Have a great week, and of course, have a happy 4th of July. We'll see you soon.